Hi everyone, Quiveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, we will continue to look at the November sky. We are now into November, and we're going to start by taking a look at the sky here on the 5th of November. So if we take a look at our meteor showers over here, we have the northern Taurids, they're radiant right next to the moon, the southern Taurids a little bit further out, and the anti-Helion point. We do also have the Andromedids, and the Andromedids are also peaking on the 5th of November. We can see there, zenith hourly max of 3. It's about 3 here if we take a look at the sky for 8 o'clock on the 5th. So this is pretty close to their peak. We're only seeing 1 given that we're viewing from the city, and also the bright light of the moon is going to interfere. And it is a similar thing for the Taurids. So we can see the Taurids aren't peaking on the 5th of November. We can see the Taurids here, the northern Taurids are peaking on the 12th of November, and the southern Taurids peaked back on the 10th of October. So these are two different meteor showers which both say that Comet 2P Encke is their parent body, but the Comet 2P Encke, there's a good chance that it has broken apart, that one of these meteor showers is actually from the comet itself, whereas the other, most likely the northern Taurids, are really from a part of the comet that broke off, or a different part of the comet's stream, the long tail that it leaves behind. Not just the tail that we see in the sky, but the stream of matter that it leaves behind as it moves through the solar system. So we can see we've moved forward to the 12th. The northern Taurids are up to their zenith hourly max of 5. We're currently seeing 4 from here in Ireland, or we will be on the 12th, and with the light pollution and everything, it's cut down to just the 1. These meteor showers, all of them are quite small, so the Andromedids peaking right at the start of November, and then the northern Taurids coming a little bit later. We're going to have to move a bit closer to morning time for the radiant of the Leonids to come up. So we can see the Leonids here. We're after moving through to the 13th, so they're quite close to the moon as well. But the peak of the Leonids is coming much later in the month, not until the 17th of November. So if we keep moving forward, we'll come back just here to the 17th. There we're seeing that it has a variable range from 5 to 20. This year, it looks likely that the Leonids will be in the 15 to 20 range. But this meteor shower, this is the meteor shower that produces hundreds of thousands of meteors when it's really at its peak. So we can see here the Leonids peaking really once we're into just the start of the evening of the 17th. So when the Leonid radiant is way out of view for us, we're not going to see many of the Leonids when they're at their highest, this 5 to 20 zenith hourly rate, simply because the constellation isn't above the horizon. The radiant isn't above the horizon. We can still see meteors when the radiant isn't above the horizon, but we're going to see less of them the further from the zenith the radiant is, just because so many of them will be appearing under the horizon for us. So we can see there coming through to the 18th, late on the 17th, we're getting slightly better. We're seeing here 4 to 16, but if we hop back to the actual 17th, just after midnight into the 17th, really after sunset on the 16th, we can see that they're down there to 3 to 10. So the Leonids, they're not going to be as amazing as they can be this year, but we will be able to see a reasonable amount of them just after sunset on the 17th. We will in Ireland probably see more later as we come through to the 18th, but if you're in a different location where the Leonids are going to be up closer to their peak, where they're under the horizon for us, then you might be in with a better shot. We can see their parent body there is Comet 55P Temple-Tuttle. Due to the way that this comet goes around the solar system, when it passes near the Earth, which it does every 33 years or so, it leaves behind a fair bit of material, and roughly every 33 years the Leonids will have a major shower, a much bigger shower than normal. That's when they get into their hundreds and thousands, the meteor storms as they're called, not just meteor showers. This year looks like it's just going to be a normal meteor shower year, but the Leonids are very fast. So we can see here They have a geocentric meteoric velocity of 71 kilometers. So that means from our perspective, they're traveling at us at 71 kilometers a second. If we hop back here to the northern torids, we can see they're at just 29 kilometers a second. And I do believe for the northern and southern torids, yeah, 27 and 29 kilometers per second. The comet that gave rise to them is going around the solar system in the normal prograde way. So they're essentially moving the same direction as us. But the Leonids, their comet, Comet 55P Temple-Tuttle, it's a retrograde comet. So it's going around the solar system essentially backwards compared to everything else. And that means those meteors, they're really coming at us. We're not just catching up to them and pulling them in with our gravity. They're streaming right at us. So those meteors end up being much, much faster. And you may be able to see that as they streak across the sky. We're after going through a fair portion of the month here, just looking at these meteor showers from the city. So we're going to come all the way back to the start of the month and head out to the countryside. Of course, for the early part of the month, the light of the moon is going to interfere. So it's going to interfere with the meteors and meteor showers that you see. You will see fewer meteors due to the full moon. If we come back towards sunset at the beginning of the month, we can still see the summer triangle. It hasn't completely left our sky yet, but it isn't going to be in the sky for a large portion of the night. Saturn is still with us pretty much for the entire night, and we're losing some of those constellations down in the southwest. Pleiades are already above the horizon. And as we move later in the month, once the moon is out of the way, we can see the Hyades. Essentially all of Taurus is already up here just after sunset. Well, a little bit after sunset. We're here at 6:45. We can still see part of the Milky Way, but it is mostly this outer arm section tailing off towards the edge of the galaxy. We're seeing way, way less of the core of the galaxy. Moving through towards morning time, we don't even have to go all the way through to morning time. Here we are at just 11 o'clock, and we've got Orion, Gemini, the start of Leo, and we can see the Leonid radiant there. We've got Auriga with that bright star Capella. They're all up here reasonably early in the night. 11 o'clock, so reasonably early in the night once we get a little bit later in the month. And as we start pushing towards morning time, we can see here, we can see, for example, Arcturus, and that means the constellation of Bootes or Bootes is just out here. The plough is pointing down to Arcturus as it normally does, which means we're going to start seeing more of Virgo in the morning, and there is Spica in the morning right next to Corvus, just as we come around to morning time on the 20th of November, once we're a little bit later in the month. We're still just about seeing Venus, but as you can see, it's incredibly close to the horizon. Jupiter is a much, much easier bet, and as I mentioned previously, we're losing Venus entirely once we come through to the end of the month. But we are gaining Mercury in the morning. So we can see Mercury coming up there just as we go from November into December. But we can see that the highest Mercury reaches above the horizon, it's still really, really low, and that's going to keep it reasonably difficult to see. But we are seeing things at a slightly different angle. You probably noticed right at the start of the video, even in early November, the sun is incredibly low in the sky for midday here in Ireland. So even if we come back a little bit to the beginning of November, here we are on the 6th. The sun is incredibly low in the sky. We're really coming into winter. So that's giving us, of course, much, much longer nights, but it also means objects that are close to the ecliptic, like Saturn and like the moon, especially when they're up close to midnight. So our full moon in November, for example, they're going to be really, really high in the sky, and that should make them even easier to see. For example, with Jupiter here, even at 5 o'clock in the morning, we can see how high in the sky Jupiter is. So if we take a closer look, we can see its magnitude minus 2.36. It is an incredibly bright object. We're seeing it at minus 2.21 because it's reduced by 1.16 air masses, or 1.16 air masses. And that's because Jupiter is so, so high in the sky. If we come down here and click on Venus instead, we can see that Venus is brighter, minus 3.92, but it's reduced to almost the same brightness, minus 2.36, by 12.0405 air masses, because it's so much lower in the sky. Venus and Jupiter will appear to be a comparable brightness, but that's only because they're getting extincted by such different amounts of atmosphere. And of course, that's going to be a very big difference for those of us here in Ireland. How you see it where you are will vary, of course, but we'll make a more direct comparison with Jupiter just as we finish up. We'll bring it back down towards the horizon, nearly where Venus was, and we can see there it's still magnitude minus 2.36, but now it's reduced to just minus 1.65 by 5.51 air masses because it's so much lower. In fact, we should be able to get that down to 12 air masses if we get it right down at the horizon, very similar to where Venus was, and now we can see it's reduced to just minus 0.74, so not even as bright as some of the stars that we would be seeing in the sky. But that is just a quick look ahead to some of the other things that are coming up in November, the positions of some of the constellations, and a quick touch on those meteor showers. I will get back to the Leonids once we're closer to their peak at the end of the month. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do like it. If you like this kind of content, then please subscribe to this YouTube channel. You can also read this information on my website, queevinscontent.ie. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you back here next time.